it again. Fulham needed a goal scorer. It seems like they found one.
Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. Welcome back, Fulham fans, Fulham family. We've been away for a while. We've had a bit of a break come the end of the season, but we're back. It's pre-season time. It's summer in England. The weather's beautiful. It's time to get the family, get the group back together again and talk all things Fulham. We have a full crowd today as well, starting in my top left. Dave, how are we going?
Oh, yeah, I'm great. It's really nice to be back. It's felt like ages. I hate the summer. Life feels a little bit empty when Fulham aren't around. And the transfer news hasn't really kicked in yet. And it's all about the Euros, isn't it? So it's nice to be back talking about Fulham.
Absolutely. It really, yeah, it's horrible when there's no Fulham. It's nice to get a tiny bit of a break at the end of the season, but then you really do want to get straight back into it. Dad, how are we going?
I'm very well, thanks. I've just realised how much I've missed this. I really have. There's no Ashes cricket. I've got my adopted family and some of my real ones here, and life's good.
Life is good. Sammy, how are we?
I'm good. It's like the Spice Girls getting back together for the Olympics. I've missed you guys so deeply and terribly, and there's been a hole in my heart since the season's ended. I am so out of the loop because you guys know how much I hate transfer rumors, and this is a time where I kind of go into a little shell. So I have not prepared for anything that we're going to discuss tonight, and the only thing I've prepared is my deep love and appreciation for you all. So very happy to be here.
Well, I'll make sure everyone sticks around right to the end when I'm going to ask you to attribute a Spice Girl to each of the members of the That's So Craven team. So get your thinking hat on, Sammy. Skibby, finally, how are we?
I'm all good. I was just saying, like before we went live, how it feels. It's been a year since I have spoken to you guys again, so it's really refreshing to see your lovely, lovely faces and hear your Aussie twangs back again, talking all things Fulham. So it's looking forward to it. But it's silly season. I'm a bit like Sam. I hate this part. I'm just looking at the fixtures. When can I get back to the cottage? When can I get back on Fulham and forget all about the Euros and all this absolute crap that we're enduring at the moment? But hey, there we go.
It is silly season, and it's called silly season for a reason, because some of the stuff happening at the moment is just outrageous, and we'll get into that. Anyone following along on our live stream on YouTube will be able to see that we've done a little bit of a rebrand over the summer, a bit of a new layout, new vibes, hoping that it carries through into a very successful season to come. As always, just a reminder that we run the That's So Craven Fulham Discord. Lots of great chat in there at the moment about the Euros, lots of great Fulham chat on top of all the transfer rumours. Really good engagement from Fulham Fan News, who is the one reporting on most of the stuff happening at the moment. So really great place to be. If you haven't already, you can find all the links in our Twitter and across all our socials as well. Please do join the Discord. It's a great place to be with like-minded Fulham fans to talk all things Fulham through this horrible little summer period. Let's get into the first topic of today, though. The fixtures for the 24-25 season were announced not that long ago. Guys, it's obviously a bit full on. You get no Fulham for a while, and then all of a sudden you get given 38 fixtures to have a look at and pore over and try and work out where you're getting points from. Dave, I'll start with you first, because I know when we were chatting about it, you identified a few tough little patches for Fulham, but overall, how do you sort of feel these fixtures actually suit Fulham?
Well, I think we've got an opportunity at the start to pick up some points. I don't hate the first fixture away at Man United, having won there already. They're a little bit of a basket case. I think it's prime for an upset. So, quite excited about that one. And then we've got a good few home games over the next couple of months, starting with Leicester, got West Ham, Newcastle, who of course we lost to last year, but I do think that depending on how we are at the end of the window, that's a game we should be competing in at home. And I think it's really important that we do pick up points at the start. The point that you made at the start there about what I'd looked at when the fixtures first came out was kind of like our run-in from like I think late February onwards. It's not the best, particularly through April. There's a lot of really difficult fixtures. We play quite a lot of the top teams in a row, and the teams around that are a lot of tough away fixtures. So I really don't want to be in a position where come the end of February we're in the relegation battle, or I think that we're going to have a really tough run in. If we can do what we've done the last few seasons, pick up points at the start, pick up points around January, then that's going to be really important this year, I think.
Yeah, agree. It's there's a couple of those little runs. There's one towards the end of the season, the sort of run in, and there's also one, I think, about 10 games into the season where we have a really tough little period where, like you said, we have an opportunity to pick up points at the start of the year, but also it seems that it's going to be very important to pick up points early in the season as well. Skibby, your thoughts on the overall look of this fixture list? It's obviously you have to play every team twice across the year, but it is sometimes nice to have those little runs where you do have some opportunities to pick up a bulk amount of points.
Yeah, and I always kind of dislike, or just not dislike, but I disagree with people that say, fixture list is released and everyone plays each other twice, home and away. Whoop-de-doo. And I'm like, yeah, but there's more into it in terms of the momentum, the teams that you play. So if you have an absolute crap run of really hard games, it really takes a toll on your sort of mental well-being and from a fan and a player, I suppose. But I think the sequence is really crucial. And I've already kind of pinpointed where we're going to fall over the end of the season. We're about to push on for Europe or the 50-point mark or whatever we were always going for. And it looks like the end of March where we have Tottenham Hotspur at home, followed by Arsenal away, Liverpool and Chelsea in the month. I can just see that's going to be that's the tail off point. That is where we're just going to go from absolute optimism. We're going to get to Europe. We're going to get that top half finish and we're just going to fall off. Don't mean to be that negative, but I can just see that's exactly where it's going to happen. So, March 15th, watch this space. That's when we're all going to fall off. But, I mean, we've had some really tough openers in the last sort of couple of years where people have really given us no hope. But for once, it actually seems that it's looking quite nice in a way that we could probably go into September in quite a healthy position. I think there's going to be a lot of teams such as, we're playing Ipswich and Leicester early on, who are going to take time to sort of get used to the league. They're going to have brand new teams almost that will need to gel. So we'll be playing them at a really good time. So I think we'll be on the front foot from the get-go, which is really good for us. I can't see us going into too many tricky patches, but I just feel like that end of March is just going to be the make or break for the rest of the season, and we'll see where it goes from there.
It'll be that point where we reach 39 points like we do every season, and then we just stop picking up points for 2 months. Dad,
it's so difficult, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's so difficult to know. I mean, it's hard to know what we're going to start the season with. Who's in, who's out? We're getting there are stories emerging, and if you just look at the likes of Willian, if he walks, I know some people probably think he doesn't really matter that much, but in my head he really does. And if Polinia stays or goes, that makes a very, very big difference. I think whilst at the end of the season we were talking about really wholesale changes to the squad, it will surprise me if that happens. And if it does happen, it kind of makes me a bit nervous because I can't see it happening quickly. The Euros are a big distraction. Not good at doing early business anyway. And, you look at that those early fixtures, and it doesn't seem too challenging, but it's not challenging if you're in good shape and if you're actually ready to hit the ground running as a unit. And it would seem like a really bad lost opportunity if we had a relatively easy run of fixtures and we were still trying to get ourselves organised. And I'm just fingers crossed hoping that that is not what happens.
Knowing that is the case, though, that we are often slow in our summer business. And if you look at the last few seasons, we have those first couple of games when you've got Torres Francois playing and all the youth players basically filling the gaps, Polina playing at centre-back, things like that. It does almost feel like having Leicester and Ipswich early doors is a good opportunity. And even having Man United first up, where they haven't sort of found their stride yet, and you kind of hope that maybe you can hit them at the right time. Sammy, do you feel like there's an opportunity there for Fulham to actually get off to a bit of a blinder? If you get a bit of an upset against Man United and then potentially wins against two newly promoted sides, all of a sudden Fulham are sitting with 9 points from 3 games. Possible?
I wasn't thinking about this until Jack said it, but Marco Silva, manager of the month for August.
Yeah.
Gotta be in it.
Oh,
Written in the stars.
It's very
A
possible.
win at Old Trafford, unbeaten start. I could see it happening, but no.
I guess the question sort of is, overall, this seems like a very good start for Fulham. Like the fixtures don't look overly challenging. I think I saw that the fixtures had been analysed and Fulham had the third easiest start to the season in the first 5 games.
I said my bit, and I'm saying that I'm kind of, I'm concerned that it might be a missed opportunity if we don't hit the ground running. That's my only take. I have no idea what we're going to turn up with on 16th of August or whenever the first fixture is, and I think in some ways, if we're going to have a bad start, I wouldn't mind if we're playing Man City 4 times. So I would be really frustrated if we had some relatively easy games that everyone else was spanking, and we were scratching our heads, running around in circles, arguing with each other because we haven't got the system right yet in the first month, and we've missed opportunities. That would be very annoying for me.
Yeah, Sammy.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, you're back again. Beautiful.
Finally. Okay. What were we talking about? I've just been in the settings.
Fixtures, Sammy. Give us your take. Give us your take.
Fixtures. Okay. Well, to be honest, I'm actually quite happy with starting with Man United. I reckon we can definitely at least push them to a draw. For me, it really always just depends on what team are we going to actually start with, or what team we actually have. Because if the team's in disarray because of a couple of key transfers and key players like Polina have gone to wherever they go, that can always be a little bit of a spanner in the works. So if we have a solid starting lineup that have a full preseason, I reckon it's a serious positive. But like all these things, we're basically just reading tarot cards right now. I have no idea what's going to happen. That's the beauty of the beautiful game. It's just I've got no idea, and but I love spinning a narrative. So we go on a tear. That's my perspective on it.
Here's a question to pose to everyone. Looking at the last 2 fixtures of the season, Brentford away and then Man City at home, does that fill anyone with a little bit of dread? Potentially, I'm hoping we're not pulled into a relegation scrap in any way, shape or form, but with those 2 fixtures right at the end of the season, we saw what Man City did to us even without any pressure last year. To play them on the final day of the season, you'd be hoping you don't have to pick up any points, and then obviously a Brentford derby as well, the game before the end of the season. It's a bit of a tricky little run-in. Dave, do you feel like there's anything to worry about there, or do you feel like this team's going to be clear of relegation again?
Of course, the Man City game's been a bit of a write-off in recent years, hasn't it? So that we always put that down as a loss, regardless. Playing Brentford right at the end, sooner or later, in the years to come, one of us is going to be in jeopardy at that point. Us or Brentford. So I don't like that fixture being so close to the end of the season. It would be great if it was those guys in jeopardy and we could potentially relegate them on their own turf. That would be fantastic. But of course, there's the fear that we would be under pressure at that point, and Brentford have the opportunity to do that to us, which I couldn't actually think of anything worse for us at the end of the season than giving Brentford the opportunity to do that to us. So, yeah, I don't like the fixture there. It seems to happen every year. There's a lot of familiar patterns in the fixture list where we tend to play the same teams in or around the same times, home and away. And that's one I would much rather be, March, April time than right at the end.
You could always think about the Man City fixture as, if it's placed late in the season, it means you haven't come up against them, and you've been given a reprieve for a month or more to actually accumulate some points. Think about it that way. And if you've got it in the diary as probably points lost, then at least you've had an opportunity to accumulate points against beatable sides. I agree with you about the Brentford thing, though. I mean, it's like, as far as face saving goes, that would be it'd be terrible to come up against them in a precarious position, and kind of have that shoved in your face if that's how things were looking. I'm really put off at the moment. I'm concerned, Skibby, that you've got some product placement going in the background, but I can't quite get the focus on that bottle. I want to know who our new sponsor is.
Limoncello of some sort.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
What is
Barefoot
that?
Pinot Grigio.
Okay.
It's not actually mine. It's not actually mine. Just to be clear there. That was a friend who came over yesterday. But there you go.
We're picking up nothing for that, and it's been sitting there for 20 minutes. Terrible.
Yeah. But
I'll see you in the marketing meeting.
I was going to just chime in quickly. You're all talking so negative. We could relegate Brentford at the G-Tech. How brilliant would that be? That would be fantastic. That would. I mean, that's just as likely for us to be in a position. I think they're in a world of hurt. They didn't have a great season. They haven't really, and they know that they're going to be losing Ivan Toney apparently. But if he has a good Euros, then potentially his value goes back up again. Otherwise, they might struggle. And then with the Man City last game, they'll have the league wrapped up by then. Well, I mean, I think this year was the penultimate game of the season, but our last home game. But they still had everything to play for. But last game, got it wrapped up. It's probably the best chance to actually get points against Man City when they have nothing else to play for. And potentially at that stake, they've probably got a Champions League final to look forward to potentially, an FA Cup final to look forward to potentially. I think that's probably the best time to play Man City, if I'm honest. So I think it's quite lucky, really.
Yeah, no, it's a good point actually. You don't really think about the flip side of it, but it's true. If there's players with slight niggles and knocks, you probably hold them back for FA Cup finals, especially if you've already walked the league at that point, which they probably will do again. So yeah, maybe it's an opportunity there. Maybe it's one of those times when we look at it and go, there's a chance to relegate Brentford. That's actually more likely 3 points than a draw or no points. So fingers crossed. It's an interesting one to look through the list. I think you could sit down and analyse it for hours and hours and kind of get back to nowhere. And I'm sure Marco Silva is still looking at it going, doesn't matter, 40 points, point per game, get through the season, get out the other side. But it does feel this year that the promoted teams, I think last year's promoted teams were very, very weak in comparison. I think Leicester, admittedly, they're probably going to lose a few players. Ipswich might not put up that much of a fight, but it does seem like the level is going to be slightly higher than Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton. Sammy?
I have a question for the group. Because the top half of the table is getting so much stronger, and obviously City are becoming like the Thanos of the Premier League at the minute. We're kind of in this weirdly nice poised position where we're kind of riding off like the coattails, and it seems like all like the teams that are coming up from the Championship aren't really cutting the mustard. So do you guys reckon that actually puts us in a good position for the next couple of years, assuming everything doesn't just completely go to shit? Because it could just be that we just kind of get stuck in the bloated up the top, crap at the bottom, but we just stick around in the Prem for a while. What do you guys reckon?
There might be something in that. It does seem that it's getting tougher to return to the Premier League and actually prosper. And I'm not, 100% sure of exactly what that is. If maybe the screws are turning on PSR and making it more difficult to just throw a lot of money at it and get lucky, or I don't know, maybe just the clubs that are actually scrapping their way through the Championship and getting back in, and not that well placed to suddenly burst on the scene and kind of do things sensibly and fashion their way through actually staying in the Premier League. But it seems to be getting trickier, or is that just me making shit up?
No, I think it's purely a financial thing. I mean, like Leicester, Leeds, Southampton. I think they're probably going to be coming up and down, but never. I can't see them being as cemented as us. I think we've just been quite lucky. But I mean, for teams like Ipswich, I can just see them going straight down, and in the same way, I can see like Sheffield just coming straight back up. So it puts us in a bit of a weird kind of purgatory. But we stay in the Premier League.
If that is true, and that's actually happening, and there's some sort of data or science behind that, it's a bit of a problem for the brand, because that's the worst thing imaginable. The wonderful thing about promotion and relegation is that it's exciting, and if you do it well, it's a huge opportunity. But if the same teams just keep popping up and going down and popping up and going down, it's all a bit predictable, and the drama
And
the
until
theatre
Wrexham,
well.
I just
can't
think
tell me that.
I just finally caught up to speed with Wrexham and actually, binged the 3 seasons.
Tell me that Disney won't trickle a little bit of money in there just for the. You, Jack, you go.
No, I just think it's too easy for clubs to shit the bed, basically, and get themselves relegated. It doesn't take much to happen. You look at the position Fulham are in at the moment, for example, and it's going to sound a little bit pessimistic, but lose Polina, lose Willian, lose Tosin, not as big a deal, but Fulham lose, let's say, 4 or 5 key players. Maybe Muniz goes to Chelsea because they're happy to spend 60 million on him, and we lose maybe one other player on top of that, and Leno gets injured at the start of the season. All of a sudden, Fulham are down. It's very easy if we don't actually invest properly and sign replacement players for a team to shit the bed, and we saw Leicester do it. They shit the bed. They won the league, and a few years later, they're playing in the Championship. It's not hard for it to happen, and I think we need to be a little bit wary that it can be a couple of bad things happening all at once during the season, and all of a sudden you are down. And we saw it last year where we dropped points against Burnley a couple of times. We dropped points against Sheffield. If we'd picked up those points, we would have been challenging for Europe. If we dropped a few extra points through the season, which is very easy to do, all of a sudden we actually get dragged into a relegation battle. So it's Scott Parker time. It's fine margins, unfortunately, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to rest on our laurels, not for a very long time, until you get to the point where you pull a bit of an Aston Villa and you spend a lot of money and invest really, really well, but you do that for 3 or 4 seasons in a row and get to the point where you actually become on the edge of that sort of elite top half of the league. I look at a team like West Ham, they could easily drop off and drop out, even though they've been up qualifying for Europe the last few seasons. It wouldn't take much for them to lose Jared Bowen, maybe one or two other players, Paqueta, if he leaves or gets done for cheating and gambling like he probably will do. All of a sudden, West Ham fall in a heap. It could easily happen. We saw it happen to them years ago. So I get the idea that yes, with the promoted teams coming up, not looking anywhere near as strong, it gives us a little bit of a buffer. But I just feel like it's right on a knife edge every season. And I'm worried up until sort of 15, 20 games through the season when you get a bit of a better lay of the land. At the moment, looking at the teams coming up, yes, we should stay up, but you just don't know what's going to happen, unfortunately.
I do think stability is key, though. So when you look at Fulham and Marco Silva, they had something in the Championship which was settled that completely blew the league away, let's be honest. So therefore, okay, pundits tipped us for relegation the first time, but I don't think many Fulham fans did. I think we knew that we had to adjust, and we saw early on that we had adjusted our tactics to sort of make a stake of staying in the league. But I think you look at Leicester, they went on a run, were blitzing the league, then they completely fell off, and Ipswich managed to catch them again, and they managed to scrape it. I don't know what the real terminology is, but it wasn't convincing, let's put it that way. But to think that now that they've come up, their best player, Shrewsbury Hall, is now imminently about to go to Chelsea because the Leicester manager also went to Chelsea. The stability is gone. As soon as you lose a manager after being promoted, there is going to be a lot of work that they need to do, not only to adjust from the Championship to the Premier League, but also they're starting from square one. They've got to get someone brand new in to stamp their authority and stamp their sort of vision on how they're going to play in the Premier League in 2 months, if that. It's not a lot of time. With a brand new group of players, they're going to need to spend. It's almost like it's just too much of an ask for a team like Leicester to come up, start again, all from scratch, and then to try and stay in the league. It's going to be a big ask, I think. And I think that, for me, is why I think they're going to struggle. So I always see that as a positive for us, whether we won't get dragged into a relegation fight. I might be wrong, but that's just how I feel. Not to mention that they're under a lot of financial scrutiny as well. So, they're going to get 30 million or whatever it is for Shrewsbury Hall, but I think they needed to get about 90 million by the end of June. So whether that happened, I think there's a leeway, so they've got like another week or so to try and gather those funds. But I think they're not able to fill those gaps of all the quality players that they're probably going to lose because they're just so under the cosh from financial fair play. And I think, going back to Jack's point earlier, of it is harder for teams to initially come back up again, but that's just because you see teams like Leeds and Leicester just throw everything to try and get back up, and it doesn't always work, and therefore they get completely in a hole that now Leicester are back up, that they're in actually probably a worse position than if they actually stayed back down for another season, balance the books out, get a bit of stability, and then come up as a bit of a healthier club rather than throw everything in the kitchen sink in it and try and stay up like Forest did. And that was really touch and go. But you see the golf in class. Everton had, 12 points in the end, 10 points in the end, and still managed to stay up comfortably, just because the difference in class between the teams that came up was just that big. And I just don't think that's going to change, unfortunately, until they actually start bridging the financial gap between the Premier League and the Championship. You're just going to see teams come up, struggle, go back down, and you'll see the odd team that will be run as a well-oiled machine, that they have the great core squad, they have a well-run financially, and then they can make a stake of sort of competing with those Premier League teams which are potentially not being run very well, i.e. Forest and Everton, who seem to be always in the crosshairs of the Premier League for financial reasons. But that's sort of the target. But that's the only time I can see that kind of leapfrog happening, of team being run really poorly in the Premier League and a team that comes up that's actually being run quite well, that will take their place. But that's the only time I can see it happening.
Well, if you sprinkle into all of that, imagine you're doing everything right. You've got a good manager. You're stable. You've bought some smart players or made some good signings, and then you have the injury run that Newcastle had.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, you could be doing everything right and have 6 or 8 weeks of just ridiculously. Well, I sometimes wonder whether that's luck or whether it was something that they were doing wrong in the gym or the training field, where they were pushing them too hard and they've broken them.
It must have been. I think they had 4 back injuries through the season, so they must have been doing something wrong.
Yeah,
it's
but
Bielsa logic.
You do that for 4, 6, 8 weeks, you're toast. You can't catch up too much.
Yeah.
Guys, let's nip across to our next topic of conversation, and it's to have a bit of a chat about some of the transfer news floating around. I know it's all rumours, although it's not entirely rumours, because we know that a fair bit of this is actually happening at the moment. The main one to chat about is the one that's obviously going to drag out until the Euros are done, let's be perfectly honest. João Palhinha to Bayern Munich. Fulham have set an asking price of around 60 million. Bayern, I think, initially bid about 35 and have been going up in about £2 million increments since then. I think they recently reached about 42 million, but Fulham are pretty much standing firm. Dave, I'll start with you. Your whole thoughts on where this is going, and if you see Fulham potentially just sort of easing up in the way we're negotiating and maybe just letting Palhinha go just to get this one concluded finally.
Yeah, I think that you know the point you've made at the end there is quite important. That everyone's getting really tired, watching this play out and getting frustrated that the offers appear to be low. I mean, how much truth there are in them, I always take with a pinch of salt. But I think it looks like Bayern are still some way off. They've been clearly reduced the offer that they made to try and take him on deadline day last year. He is another year older, but he seems to have dropped quite a long way reportedly to try and get him as the best price possible. Fulham seem to be holding out for the fee that they'd agreed last winter. How realistic that is, again, I'm unsure. It does feel like there's somewhere in the middle the two may meet. And if they don't, which is a little bit of a concern of mine, because we're kind of in a lose-lose situation where we're now left with a player who clearly doesn't want to be here. He wants to be at Bayern Munich, and he was very professional last year. Is there a limit to that? If another move falls through, that's one question I would have about it. There doesn't seem to be that many other clubs linked at the moment. There was a few little chats about Man United and I think Barcelona I read, but nothing serious, nothing that really kind of came out serious. So it does concern me that we might be left with a player who's very frustrated and demotivated at the end of all of this. I think where Fulham fans are generally is they'd like to get a decent fee, maybe not the 60 mil that we'd have got last summer, but closer to that 50 million, and be able to just move on quickly and replace him so that we're ready for the start of the season. We just don't feel that close to that right now. So it is a real saga, and one that is a big distraction, I think, around our whole transfer window planning. The best case is we can maybe come to an agreement and in the next few weeks. But I do fear this is going to be something that doesn't really play out until August.
The thing that kind of really annoys me about it is I've seen in a couple of articles the emotional spin of João Palhinha's wanted this since he was a little boy. He's always wanted to go hang out in Munich. Like, I just don't really buy it, and it's this really annoying, manipulative kind of spin on it. Because at the end of the day, I think he's a professional. He just wants to play as much football as he can, and he just wants to be appreciated. But it's always going to be spun in a way to get him to play to Bayern Munich. And that kind of pisses me off, because I think at the end of the day, if he's got a solid wage and he's getting a solid amount of football, like, he's still playing in the Premier League. He'll play Champions League at Bayern, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as he's hanging out with his eyes like saucers saying, "Please, Mr. Khan, can I go to Bayern?" Like, I don't think it's that. I think he is. I think he wants to take a next step in his career, but I just really get really pissed off with the pro Bayern narrative of, yeah, let's get our guy. It's like, no, he'll go for the right price. Go away.
It's a bit of a weird one, though. It's a weird one because,
It is weird.
If we're to believe what we hear and read, we say 60 and they say 40 something, and no one seems to be moving, but it's hardly a feeding frenzy, is it? I mean, where are all the other buyers confirming that valuation? Which makes you think, well, they seem to have some sort of fetish for João Palhinha. Maybe they're the only ones. Maybe everyone else in the Premier League or other Champions League clubs have sort of not worked him out, but thought about it very carefully and thought, yep, he's a particular kind of a tool in the toolbox, and we don't need that, and we certainly wouldn't pay that money for it. So it's a very specialised kind of a case, and maybe we've got this unique product which has a value, but has an enormous intrinsic value to us. No one else really sees it the same way, and so there will come a point where we're going to have to optimize that if we want the money or we think we can replace him, and we're going to have to sort of come to an understanding, or maybe change our perspective on what value really is on him. But it's a weird one. There's no feeding frenzy. We've just got this whingy club who seem to be trying to manipulate him out of Craven Cottage.
Also, if he goes, he'll play on rotation. Like, he won't be their out-and-out starter. There's no way. He'll be going in and out, and it won't be consistent. And he's such a unique player that they won't really just let him be João. He'll have to, like, conform to what they need. And they're kind of just trying to get him as just...
We don't care about that. We don't care about that.
I know we don't care about that, but I care about that personally.
I disagree with that. I think if he goes to Bayern, he'll be starting pretty much every game. I also think he does want to go to Bayern. He said he wants to go to Bayern. He's agreed now 2 deals with Bayern to move there, personal deals at least. I don't think he'd be happy staying at Fulham. Being perfectly honest, I think Dave was absolutely right. I think if we don't sell him, we actually have a problem on our hands where we've got a player who kind of doesn't want to be there. I think he'll still be a professional and play, but are we going to get the same João from the first season we had him in the Premier League? I don't think so. I think if a second deal fell through, it would have a massive impact on him. I also feel like, Dad, you talk about a feeding frenzy not being there at the moment. I think the fact that he's already agreed personal terms with Bayern, and Bayern seems so set on signing him, it doesn't make sense for other teams to come in at the moment. I think if the deal falls over, all of a sudden other teams have a bit of a clear run at him. And I could see other teams potentially coming in for him once a deal with Bayern falls over. But while that's happening, he wants to go to Bayern. He's saying he's going to Bayern. There doesn't seem to be any reason to come in as another club to try and steal the deal, because he seems to have his heart set on going to Bayern so far. So it doesn't make sense to come in and try and convince him to go elsewhere. I feel like the saga just needs to end. It's just been ongoing for way too long now, and I don't want to see us fold and take under his asking price, but at the same time, I don't want us to hold out for so long that we lose out on an opportunity, and it causes friction and it causes issues within the squad because of it. Because if you look at what happened with Mitro, where we did hold out for a very long time, we got a half decent price, but at what cost, really? Because we didn't have time to find a replacement. And it does seem like we've got replacements lined up for João, with talk of Fulham still being in for Andre this season. But if we leave it too long, he gets sniped out from underneath us, and all of a sudden we start again. And we're in the same position we were last year, and all of a sudden Harrison Reed is being asked to be João Palhinha for a season, which is... And then we have to sign a Sasa Lukic mid-year to try and plug a gap. It all falls into a heap all of a sudden if you don't actually come to the party a little bit here.
If we as a club convince ourselves that this has got to be settled and sorted out for the greater good, what's the price? Because you're going to have to compromise on the price. So what is the price at which we agree to move forward? This is let's just clear the decks, take the money, and move forward. What is the price?
The one thing I think we're missing as well with what is the price is Fulham said the price is 60 mil. Bayern have come in at 38 and then 40 and then 41 and then 43. Are Fulham lowering that 60 mil down slightly, or are they sticking at 60 mil? Because that's very different as well. If they're coming down at the same time and saying, okay, actually it's 55 now. We did say 60. We're getting closer, but we're not doing it for 43. Personally, 50 mil, I'd be happy to close that one out. 45 mil, you're getting close, but I think 50 is probably my number. Anyone else?
I think it's realistic. Well, I just don't want to...
Remembering that, Sporting, is it 20% of anything over 17 on him? Or is it 27?
I still haven't seen any actual confirmation of that, but someone said it's 20% over what we paid for him.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then, it's not a net 50 million. And we may still decide that that's fine. Well, 47 and a half, split the difference. Let's walk away. Let's move on. I just want to know what is the number for us to be not sick of it, but concerned that actually what we're going to be left with is damaged goods, and we're going to have a player that's not happy in a key position where he's actually doing a demolition job for us at the moment. If you have a João Palhinha who isn't doing a demolition job, what have you got?
Well, in any scenario, I don't want us to sign a second Sasa Lukic just for Skibby's health and safety, because I imagine that would blow an artery.
Yeah.
I think Elton's right, though.
Midfielders that do nothing.
It's somewhere between 45 and 50. That's what it feels like. The price is. The issue with the value of João is really interesting, and it's purely his age. For like us, his value's only going to decline now. He's 29, I think, this week. He's not going for 50 million next summer when he's 30, I can assure you. So it's only going to decline from our end. Bayern know that he's got no resale value to them. If they pick him up on a 4-year deal, they're not going to be able to sell him for anything significant at the end of that. So that's where it becomes interesting. But I think, to answer your question, Elton, it feels like it's between 45 and 50 million. I just hope it's sooner rather than later.
Skibby?
No, absolutely. I think between 45 and 50. I think the real problem here is we did have a gentleman's agreement in last summer, which basically said if Bayern come in for you in the next summer, then we'll entertain it, but at a value that we see fit. So it's almost Bayern are the ones that know this, and now they're trying to undercut us because they know that obviously we've got this agreement with João that he can go if the terms are correct, and now they're just trying to play that against us. But I think now we just got to put a date on it, just to say, right, by the end of next week, so 7th of July, if you haven't agreed anything with us, then we won't entertain anything going forward because we have a Premier League season to look forward to. So either put up the cash, we'll do the deal. If you don't, find someone else because we're not going to do it for you. But there is another thing that's sort of bugging in the back of my head of where does Zhao actually benefit this Bayern side? Because for us, who are a team who is under the cosh, they're having to sort of win the ball back very often because we don't have the ball a lot. It works for us, right? But when you look at Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga against Mainz or someone like that who they've just beaten 8-1 this season, what does he offer? Like, they're going to be just sitting back, recycling the ball. He's not really known for his passing. He's not really known for driving with the ball. Yeah, he gets the odd goal for us as a sort of a tall player and a bit of an aerial threat. Great, but I really just don't see it. I think there's better options for them in the way that they play. And I just feel like Zhao is not the right player. So even if I was a Bayern Munich fan, I'd be a bit, okay, where does this guy fit? Because I think he's great for a top 6 Premier League side who's potentially pushing for that Champions League spot. So they're not the best in the league, but they do need to do a lot of defensive work. But for Bayern, who completely rinse teams, and there's no competitiveness in the Bundesliga from a Bayern Munich perspective, it just doesn't seem like a right player. But hey, if they give us 45 to 50 million out of it, I'll take it, and then they can see how it goes. Because I think Kimmich got a lot of flack this year as sort of their defensive midfielder, and I'd bite their hand off. I think many teams in the Premier League would want Kimmich as either their right back or centre mid, but apparently he wasn't good enough for buying because I don't think his end product was that great, and I just don't think you're going to get that with Zhao anyway. So
Yeah.
each to their own.
You know what I think the best outcome of all of this is that I think everyone in the room, from a Fulham perspective, has sort of made their peace with it. He's going, and we're okay with that. Because if someone like Andre or another can be acquired at a reasonable sort of value, something sub of what we're going to sell Zhao for, and he works well for us, and we actually get something a little bit more creative, a bit more skillful, as opposed to the destroyer, I think everyone's kind of good with that. And everyone is... And that's the kind of team we want to be anyway, you know, a creative, a team that moves the ball around really quickly, transitions well, high intensity. Not that Zhao isn't that, but he is that kind of oddball specialist player, isn't he? And he's sort of done a job for us, and I think I'm okay moving on from it. I really am.
But the weird thing for me is that Andre, if you look at his stats and the way that he plays, is a deep-lying playmaker who can pick a pass, carry the ball, unlock defences. And I'm like, why are we waiting for this? Maybe from a financial perspective, but it's just not a same player. Like, I would love to have Andre next to someone who's a warrior like Zhao. So why aren't we additionally adding this player to our squad without having this need of replacing Polina? It just doesn't make sense, but...
You think about, you know, Pereira being deep and having someone like Andre playing that kind of game. That would be so exciting. So exciting.
I think it's purely financial, surely, because it seems like Andre is someone that we want to bring in no matter what happens, but it just isn't quite happening at the moment. And I think that's being held up by just making sure, because if we do keep Polina, we may not need to spend in other areas quite as much. So maybe there's a bit of thought process there. Talking of other outgoings or potential outgoings, there's a lot of talk about Willian becoming a free agent, and that would actually be today, 1st of July. Fulham have made an offer to him and to Bobby Decordova-Reid as well, but it seems both will be exploring free agency and keeping their options open. Dave, I'll start with you. How do you feel about Willian most likely being gone from Fulham now?
It's no surprise. I think when we did our summer review a couple of months ago, we talked at length about it, and I think we all felt that it might be the time William does review his options, review offers from Saudi, and it appears to be exactly what he's doing. He's let his contract run out. He's looking to see what kind of other offers are out there, and I don't expect him to be here at the start of the season. Similarly with Bobby Reid, I always thought it would be a difficult deal to do because of his age, and it's his last big contract. Plus, he's not playing that regularly, and I just wondered if he wants a new challenge. And it's an opportunity for us really to, replace with some younger, hungrier guys. But I think in the case of William, we're really going to have to invest in his replacement if he does in fact leave, because that's going to be really critical. I think we're left very light on the wings, but not just in numbers, but also in quality. And that's an area where I really think we need to improve on this summer, regardless of William leaving, but particularly if he does. So it'll be really interesting to see how that develops, and I'm sure the club want to know sooner rather than later what's going on. We don't want to be scraping around in end of August trying to bring in his replacement. But that's a bit. That is how the club tends to do business sometimes. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, I'm pretty happy for Adama to actually get his moment, because towards the end of the season, I could actually see how it could work, and I feel that it's. I mean, it's obviously not Willian, but it's so different and it's so impactful that I'm pretty on board with exploring that avenue. But yeah, we definitely got to sign somebody else. I don't know what type of player, but you'd be hard pressed to find a similar caliber of player to Willian. Yeah, hopefully there's something there.
But for me, Willian and Zhao they're not the same kind of player, but they're a similar kind of. Sorry, Adama and Zhao are kind of similar sort of specialist players in that they're quite unique, and I just simply wouldn't be putting Willian in the same category. Everyone knows my love for Willian. I've enjoyed his little piece at Fulham so much. I love watching him. I think what he's brought is he's sort of shown us what we need, the kind of flair and creativity we need. Wouldn't it be great to have some of that in young legs that can do it for 90 minutes and has there's some future to it, someone who can actually serve us for a half a dozen years. So I'll be sad to see him go, but really it was never going to last because he's asking for a lot of money. He got a lot of money at the end of the season. I think that sort of curve of value to Fulham and what we pay for him is probably reaching, difficult and awkward points in the quadrants. And I think I don't know that we can justify paying him any more if that's what he's asking for, because I think I just don't think we can do it. So, and also if he's not at this stage of his career, he could be interested in the project of trying to get Fulham to that next level and working with players and bringing players on. And if that's not where he's at, and he wants to maybe kick some very big goals in terms of finances and go to Saudi or whatever it is, that's fine. It's okay. I'm okay with him doing that. He's earned that in his career, and good luck to him. So I'm sort of I'm over it. If he doesn't want to be part of it, I don't want to be chasing him and offering him 130,000 a week and only getting sort of 65% game time from him because his legs can't carry or he's picking up injuries or whatever it is. So I think we've sort of come to the end of the road of that little sub project, and I'm okay with it. It's been great. I've enjoyed it.
Don't see it as an ending. See it as completed.
I'll take that. Another one just to talk about before we move on. Potential transfers. One incoming that is reared its head again today and has been fairly consistent throughout the window is the signing of Emil Smith-Rowe from Arsenal. Originally touted as 50 million, it's dropped down to about 30 million now. For me, a really exciting, quite young player still, who has proven himself at Premier League level, the kind of player I think we should be trying to sign in a position that I think we could do with strengthening. Do you guys agree that this is the right kind of signing that Fulham should be making and the kind of moves we should be looking to make this summer?
Absolutely.
It's a very
Hell of a
Fulham. Yeah, it's a very Fulham like pro sign. It's kind of Pereira-esque, like kind of it's the twilight, the end of his tenure at Arsenal is kind of like the perfect segue into becoming the main guy at Fulham. I could see it. Yeah.
And I mean, the Pereira comparison is the exact thing that he needs to see that we can do for his career. Like, we've taken someone who gave glimpses, never really pushed on, but, under Marco's sort of guidance, he's now pushed on. He's become a quite hot property in the Premier League. I mean, if you believe some of the rumours of where he's been linked to. But not only that, he's got into the international side for a major tournament. So, ML Smith Rowe, he is competing with, okay, I know there's been some arguments of does he play central or does he play on the left? Whatever. Okay, if he plays central, he's competing with Odegaard and Havertz when they get a striker. And if they're playing on the left, he's competing with Martinelli and Trossard. And it's just so full of talent that, he's just not going to see much game time, let's be honest. I think he's a fantastic player, but those players are that extra level, which he can reach personally. I do think he can, but he just needs that time and the right, playing time and development to get there. And for me, not only is he a young English player with Premier League experience, I think he played a very good role under Arteta, I think 2 years ago now. Basically, him and Saka burst onto the scene at the same time. And I just think that for Fulham, he can be that guy, and he would be that sort of a player that can take us to the next level, can really make things happen. And when you need someone to step up and push for that extra goal or make something happen in the dying embers of a game, he is that man. And I think for us, if he can compete with Pereira in that role, I think would be fantastic. Even on the left, if he does come in off the left, I don't think that's his strongest position. I think I'd like to see him more central, but it is a huge statement signing, and I think 30 million is probably the right price for a player of that caliber, that experience, and that age as well. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans that really don't want him to go just because they've got a sentimental value to him. They think he can do something for them, but unfortunately, where they've pushed on to a certain level now, where he potentially doesn't fit, is probably something for a team like Fulham to really gain. And I think we'd be stupid not to at least put something in just to see if we can interest him our way.
Yeah,
Completely agree.
not to show not to like throw shade on someone like Harry Wilson, but he's kind of like the perfect person to kind of fully eclipse Harry Wilson out of the squad, and that's what we should be doing. We should but seriously, we should be signing players like him to really test players like Harry Wilson and then usurp them, for lack of a better word. Because he could totally come in and then be the guy, and it could be really, really incredible, and it could jumpstart his career. And to be honest, going forward, if our team literally just becomes this is where you go to jumpstart your career, so then you get interest from the bigger clubs again, I'm actually okay with that, because then that's a very unique position to actually put us in, and it's sustainable and it keeps us in the Prem. So,
I think that's a great thing to be able to offer.
I think about 4 of those.
yeah.
It's a great thing to be able to offer, to be able to say you can come to Fulham and turn your sort of stuttering career around. Smith Rowe, tough to say a stuttering career for him because he's had a good career so far, but he's young. He's not getting the game time he should be getting, and he was on the verges of the England squad, and now he's, not even getting starts for Arsenal anymore. So it does feel like a very good signing for us. I really hope we can close that out, and I hope we've got other ones in the pipeline, similar ones. Like talk about someone like Chalobah at Chelsea, who, again, has looked great when he's actually played for Chelsea, but just isn't getting the opportunity. And with Chelsea spending the way that Chelsea spend, you can imagine they'll bring in some more centre-backs, and he'll slip even further down the pecking order. And so it does seem like a good move for all parties, hopefully. Guys, we're just approaching the end of this one, but I'd like to, just before we wrap up, have a bit of a chat about the Euros quickly. Dave and Skibby, you guys are living through it at the moment. I don't know if it's fun living through it at the moment, but how do you feel so far? The England game was last night, a pretty shoddy and average 2-1 win in extra time against Slovenia. How are we feeling?
Yeah, look, it's been a real hard watch, isn't it? The last few games. Really kind of uninspiring stuff. Reminds me of the Parker Ball days. It's very slow build-up play from the back. We're not getting people in behind. We don't seem to be taking many risks. It's just watching Stones pass to Gahey, pass to, out to Foden on the wing, back to the fullback. It's so boring to watch. And, if it wasn't really for the luck of the draw, if we'd have come up against a team like Spain yesterday, having watched them after our match, I don't know if we'd still be in the competition, but, we are. And
I do. You wouldn't be.
And that's the positive, I think, though, that we are. And it's a really good route to the final. You can't get away from that. If we can find another level, then there's no reason why I shouldn't be getting to the final of this tournament. But yeah, we're all nervous, and that's just because of how poorly that we've played. We got out of jail with a bit of a moment of genius in the last minute yesterday. Once we got the second goal in straight away early in extra time, we then started sitting back again and invited a bit more pressure for some reason. But we got the job done. But yeah, it's as I say, it's a real tough watch. I'm nervous about next Saturday. I think the Swiss are a good side. I think they're a better side than Slovakia. That will cause us problems, and I think they've got a bit more experience in their team as well, that have played at a higher level. So I think that's going to be a real good challenge. I like everyone else. I think he needs to mix things up, make some changes. I don't think he will. So we're relying on a bit more luck, a bit more moments of magic to try and get us to the next round. As you can see, not enjoying it that much. But, there's some cracking fixtures on the other side of the draw for entertainment purposes.
Skibby,
When
Dave.
Tony came on yesterday, though, I was like, I would rather go out than him do anything. Or if he scored for us to, equalise, I was like, just don't. I'd rather go out. But luckily, it was Bellingham. But I did have to double take. I did think it was Ivan Toney at first. But yeah, it's just not enjoyable. I've been really fortunate. I've been busy for the first two group games, so I didn't get to watch those and got to do anything else, which was great. So I managed to watch the last group game, which is a 0-0, and this one. But yeah, it's just clueless. Don't know what they're doing. I think they're all playing for such good clubs where they can probably just ignore what Gareth says and just go out and do what they normally like. I want the Foden that Guardiola has. I want the Kane that plays for Bayern Munich and got 50 odd goals this year. I want the Bellingham under Real Madrid, but you don't see that player at the moment. They just seem to be not shackled, but just confused. But yeah, I don't know. You like to hope they hit at one moment the penny's going to drop, and we're just going to beat Switzerland 5-0 or something. But I genuinely can't see it. So the sooner it's over, the better, really.
Here's the thing that I'm really confused about. Everyone speaks very, very highly of Gareth Southgate. He seems like a good human being. Seems like a very nice man, and he's a international level player. But everyone speaks very highly of him, his man management, and that he's created this environment where people feel protected from the outside pressure of being, an England squad and all that kind of good stuff. But you'd think that would go to the next level and allow them to play with freedom, but it doesn't.
No.
So I'm not. Hang on. So I find that hard to believe that he's actually he's allowing them to feel shielded from the criticism and the weight of expectation, which is really important in an England setup. We all understand, but he's not actually unleashing them to play with freedom. There's a fear factor there. There's an anxiety that we all know. There's some incredible players in that side, and they must be very, very frustrated at this squad, who they must realise could do something special, are not doing it. And it is a manager's job, or the management of the team, to inspire and actually give people the freedom to go and play like it doesn't matter, or dance like no one's watching, kind of thing. And you simply don't see it. It was painful watching them be so careful from the back. Where was that incisive pass, the dangerous pass, the one that Jack and I were talking about today, the one that Tosin always fucks up, which is the right idea, but he just doesn't execute it properly. But it cuts through and releases someone in that attacking part of midfield, and just tears the opposition apart. They've got the skill to do it, but they don't feel like they can. So maybe Gareth Southgate has missed his vocation. Perhaps he should have studied sports psychology and maybe taken up that part of the team. But tactically, it's not, man.
Well, to counter that, because I have at points defended Gareth Southgate, and you know what? I think his first 2 years at England were actually really, really strong, and his main goal was literally just get these players to play as a unit and to love playing for England, and I feel like he achieved that. And then in the 2020 Euros, it was, let's get these guys to the point where they believe that they can actually get to the top of a major tournament. And he actually did do that. We can't take those two things away from him. I feel that this time is the first time Gareth Southgate has gone, you know what, I'm actually a pretty good manager. I think I've got some good tactical nous. And that's when everything went to shit. Because I think I feel like he's almost like dying on his own sword a little bit, because he's never been a tactician. He's been a brilliant psychologist, and actually getting these players to kind of refine themselves in an England shirt, and we cannot take that away from him. But it is all because now he's just going, let's play conservative because defense wins tournaments, and that's kind of right. But Gareth Southgate should not be giving tactical advice. He is a man to inspire, and he has done that. And I think that's also his downfall. That's my take.
Yeah. And you kind of want to go back to the Coleman and Steve Keane days, where you've kind of got a figurehead who everyone's kind of respected. In Coleman, that, he was a club legend, all this stuff. And then, but actually in the background, Steve Keane was doing all the tactics and getting them playing. So you kind of almost want Gareth to have an assistant who knows what to do, but doesn't really have the know-how of how to deal with the media or the fans. And then you just Gareth, he'll brunt that, he'll do that. And you just have someone who can...
Absolutely.
I would be absolutely fine with that if that was the case. But no, like you say, it's almost like he's just taken the initiative, got too big for his boots, and he's pissing it all out the wall now. But apart from that, I've actually enjoyed the Euros in terms of... I know you shouldn't scout people because of tournaments, but I've just kept an eye out on some players that Fulham have been linked with, like Baumgartner of Austria. Great player. Fantastic player. I've really enjoyed watching him. I was like... And, some of the Georgians, I'm like, I'd love to have, I can't remember the name, but CDM, there's a CDM, he's everywhere. I'm like, yeah, get him in. He plays for Poland or something, 23 years old. I was like, yes, get him in. But no, yeah, you shouldn't scout players based on tournaments, but I'm enjoying that aspect.
The Georgian goalkeeper
he's a good player, yeah.
Portugal, that was amazing. That was incredible. I loved that.
Yeah, he's already quite a good player. I think he plays at Valencia. But no, there's some great sort of games, like the ones you wouldn't think of. Georgia being one of them. I think I enjoyed Albania as well. Yeah. Some of their
Turkey's
games,
got some spice. Turkey look exciting.
Yeah, they got some players. But I've basically just enjoyed watching everyone apart from England.
The question then, how far do England go? Just a very quick answer from each person. Skibby, they're winning the whole thing?
Winning it, because it's just going to be so anti-Southgate, it's going to be hilarious.
beat Germany on penalties in the final.
We're going to do what Portugal did, I think. Was it in 2012?
2012,
Where they basically, I can't remember, where they just drew. They didn't win an entire game in normal time and they won the tournament. We're going to do that.
Horrible stuff. Dave, how far do England go?
I think they might get to the final. But when I look at the teams on the other side, as I said, watch Spain yesterday, super exciting going forward. I don't know if we've got the answer for that. Germany, I think are going to, they're on home turf and, they look pretty organised. Portugal, again, really exciting going forward. So I just feel like when we run into a team like that, we just won't have the answers to deal with them. But I think there's an opportunity to get to the final because I don't think the calibre of opposition that we'll face before that are that strong. And I think we might be able to scrape through those games. So I'll predict final.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about it is that England actually do have the individual brilliance to sort of pull it out of the hat. Look at Bellingham yesterday, and Kane and a number of players could actually do it in a moment of brilliance. In a low-scoring game, if they can defend reasonably well, they could actually pull it out of their arse. But it also wouldn't surprise me if they're home for Sunday lunch.
Big point there. If they can defend reasonably well, which they haven't done so far. Guys, I think we can probably wrap it up there. It's a lot to talk about, and I'm sure we'll be back in the next little while to talk a little bit more about it all. But it's been really good to get back and talk all things Fulham. It's a few little technical issues, which I fully expected after not doing this for about a month or so. But like I said, really great to be back chatting with you guys, chatting all things Fulham. Dave, thanks for joining today.
Yeah, no, we before long we'll be talking up the Man United game, so that's something to look forward to. And yeah, let's hope this little lull of no Fulham, we get through it quickly. We bring in some exciting transfers to get us all pumped up and ready to start the season with a bang.
Love it. Skibby, thanks for joining today.
No, it was all good. He enjoyed it. And I mean, it's getting to that point where now I'm just getting excited about anything Fulham. So I don't know if you saw, but training kits were released today. So go Mongolia.
Yeah.
Have to say, they did look good, and I can't wait
more.
to go to Mongolia as well.
Absolutely. Or apparently get it included with your season ticket. So.
Oh, really? Brilliant.
We all get to go to Mongolia.
Dad, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Nice to catch up with you guys. I really genuinely mean that. I was getting a bit overloaded towards the end of the season, actually, with a lot of engagements on behind this microphone, but I've actually missed it, and I really look forward to. I'm looking forward to the season. I just want to get past all this noise and nonsense and rumor, but I'm very keen to get back into it. So yeah, hopefully we speak again in a couple of weeks.
It's proper old man stuff, calling this all nonsense. I was really hoping you were going to say nonsense, and you really hit the nail on the head there. Thank you to everyone who listens along. It's good to be back. It's hopefully this YouTube malarkey improves as well. We will get there. Technical issues today, but I'm assuming it's going to get better as we go. Really appreciate everyone who joins in with the live stream, everyone who joins in and downloads the podcast, watches along on YouTube. Thank you to everyone for supporting in the Discord as well. As always, come on you Whites.